Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. And today I have the privilege of speaking to Peter Hancock, the CEO of Pride of Britain Hotels. And we're in not my private guest room or our library. We have decamped to the Draycott Hotel in lovely Codogna Gardens in London, thanks to Melissa Stoneman, the general manager here, who invited us to use her library as a recording studio. Peter, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning to you, Adrian.
Before we go into the questions and start talking about how you view good management in hotels, and obviously some not so good management in hotels, could you just tell us a little bit about Pride of Britain and your role in it and how it works?
Sure. Well, I'm the chief executive, have been for the last 16 years, the second person, in fact, to manage Pride of Britain. It started in 1982, a not-for-profit consortium or a collection of independent hotels, 48 in current membership, all in the UK.
Right.
And our job is to market them together as a collection of fine properties, all different, but all offering very outstanding hospitality. We do that through a variety of marketing devices,
right,
all aimed at the UK consumer, and it's a very happy
and
gathering.
This is part of the marketing, which is a brochure which includes all of them.
Annual directory, yes, of which we
Beautiful.
produce 50,000 copies, and it's very expensively produced, as you can
Beautifully
see.
produced, isn't it? Lovely,
Yeah.
yes. So, you must therefore spend a lot of time walking in and out of hotels.
I do, yes.
Not being thrown out.
Walking in with a smile on my face and walking out with a tail between my legs, usually.
And today, as the industry's been changing over the last few years, and I think we are becoming more professional, especially at the top end.
Yes.
I think there's some stragglers still, which hopefully will get better as time goes on, and some may be bought up and converted, which is also happening because we're getting more chains, more groups of hotels. In your view, what is the thing that makes a property stand out, makes it really different to the property next door?
Well, I think a perfect example is what you and I experienced here at the Draycott this morning, which I should say is not a Pride of Britain member hotel, but not for quality reasons. Recognised, name used, made to feel instantly welcome. What can we do for you? Rather than sitting behind a desk waiting for you to go and lean on it and ask for something.
Yeah.
Anticipating your needs, what can we do for you? That seems to come naturally to the best players at the top end.
And I think also, I was talking to Melissa before you arrived, and we were just chatting through the thing that makes the experience the best. And in all my work, I always talk about the 70% of the experience is down to the person, the people that the guest meets.
Yes, I agree.
And 30%, it's a beautiful room, this.
Yes,
it's a beautiful hotel.
Yes, it is.
We were just looking at the sitting room out into the garden, lovely thing in London. But actually, the people make it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the money goes largely into the property, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Huge amounts in the property and in refurbishment and in the fittings and in the training that goes into the kitchen brigade and all the things that they buy. Astronomical running costs these luxury hotels have. But as you rightly say, what makes the difference for the guest is how you're treated.
Yeah.
And actually, I would put up with the odd faded curtain, the odd rucked carpet, even the odd tough bit of meat, I think, if I was beautifully treated by people and made to feel special.
Yeah.
Whereas the reverse, I think, proves the point, really. You can have a perfect meal in perfect surroundings or a perfect room, but if they forget to do things, if they make you feel that small, you'd rather not be there.
Yeah. I actually experienced that once. I won't mention the name, but Michelin-star restaurant in London, and I complimented the waiter to compliment the chef on this beautiful scallop dish.
Yes.
And all I got was a grunt. Oh. And it sort of ruined the meal.
It's a hard life to lead, isn't it, really?
I know, one has to do these things. So, in your experience going around all these hotels, do you think is sort of, if we sort of said the three greatest challenges that management have to get their staff then to deliver their vision for their business? This beautiful thing they're proud of. They've created this brand effectively. What do you think their greatest challenges are in getting that delivered by the staff?
Well, I'm sure it's different for every place, but it would strike me that the challenges would certainly include staff coming and going. We're in an industry where people move around in their careers. It's one of the great advantages of working in hospitality is you learn a skill, And that skill becomes portable, so people do move. So you have transient staff. So all the time you're having to reteach and reintroduce new members of staff to the way things are to be done. I think that's one challenge. Another is that you're very reliant on the personality of the people you employ, and that's not always possible to spot at the interview stage. So a wonderful CV can actually mask the absence of that natural hospitality, that natural desire to please, which is more important really than the technical skills, which can be taught.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you're looking for three challenges, the third would probably be the expectations of our customers, which are sometimes unreasonable. Particularly, I think, since the advent of TripAdvisor and this notion that if you're not entirely satisfied, you've got a way to threaten people to give you something perhaps more than you were really paying for. I'm not sure that Pride of Britain hotels are particularly victims of this, but I think across the trade this is happening.
Well, there was that case in Birmingham, wasn't there, where somebody was doing that, and then the hotel threatened to fine them or sue them.
That's right,
them,
yes.
And
Yes, and we all applauded the nerve of the hoteliers to do that, of course, because you felt the pendulum had swung a little bit too far one way.
I think this feedback, constant feedback that we live in this electronic world, I mean, this is going out electronically to people on the internet. I mean, it is part of our life.
Yes.
I know you're not the most technically astute person.
How dare you say
We were going to do this via Skype, but that was not going to be working. But even when we're talking at the Boho, the Boutique Hotel Summit, in the social media session, it's like there is this thing where we have to deal with this new world.
Absolutely.
And I think as hoteliers, we have to become better at communicating.
And I think the hoteliers are very good, have latched onto this very well. I make no criticism in general on that score, but I think the customers' expectations are sometimes unreasonable. Maybe they're tweaked to a friend that it's their birthday and they're on their way to somewhere, and then they're disappointed that there isn't a birthday cake. That sort of thing.
Okay. And I think, when you look at a hotel, when you go to find a hotel to bring them into Pride of Britain, what are the things you look for in the management that are going to tell you that management's got the relationship with the staff right?
Well, this is going to sound like a very corny response.
Be corny.
Pride, really. If they're proud of the hotel and proud of the people who work there, that comes through. Let me give you an example. The original founder of Pride of Britain was Gerald Milsom.
Right.
His son Paul, now a very successful entrepreneur in his own right, he has inculcated into everybody who works in his business this sense that they're part of a family and they're all on the same side.
Yes.
And I know this because he holds a dinner every year to reward and thank those who've given long service. I mean, there's a culture in that business. Let's make it as good as we can possibly make it. And everybody who works there has this feeling inside them, we are going to give our guests a good time. They will enjoy themselves.
Right. And I think it's interesting because I've been writing some pieces recently where I think we're not talking about the top end people, but maybe the people who are trying to get to the top end and maybe challenged and not finding that one thing that's going to make their business work quite right. The place that they look is often to sort of fix the staff or fix the problem out there, but actually it's a culture of the owner, of the leader, at different levels in a business. So you may be a manager of a hotel that's owned by somebody else, so you're not the owner of it, but you're the person that people look up to as the leader. You are responsible for creating that culture that people, the words you said just then was, they feel allowed to make the guest have the perfect experience. They've got permission to do that.
Yes.
And do you find sometimes when you go to hotels that it looks too controlled, like the staff are just too controlled, they don't feel free to express themselves?
I must say, if I see a badge that's got the person's name on it, worse still if it says happy to help, the chances are they're not. You shouldn't have to put a label on it. I think that what looks like effortless service does come naturally. Luckily enough for me, I'm going to the Goring later today, and I know what sort of service I'm going to receive there. It's effortless. It looks effortless. That all the work that goes behind the scenes is hidden from view. And this lovely, warm, smiling, generous approach comes through. you probably know Philip Newman Hall, who recently retired as general manager at Le Manoir aux Quatre Saisons.
Yeah.
Now, I interviewed him
Right.
on a stage a little while ago, and I asked him what was his management style, and he said, I like to prowl around all the time, and he said, in the hope of catching people doing things right,
Yes.
so I can give them instant praise.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
And do you know, that was so well. I had lucky. It was I was in Sardinia, and I literally dropped in on Lorenzo Giannuzzi at Forte Village, and he was gracious enough to spend some time with me. And his term is management by walking.
Yes.
Because not only can you see that somebody may need a bit of help, and that you can assist them and guide them and give them some direction, but also exactly that. When you see someone doing something well, just a little, well done.
Yes. Yes.
The guest really enjoyed that.
Yes.
And appreciate them, not just say thank you, but tell them what they did and why it
Yes.
worked, so that
Yes.
they learn,
Yeah.
because that reinforces the teaching.
Yes, and I think the best, the question was about management. I think the best managers, general managers or hands-on owners, whichever it may be, are the ones who spend time out front. You know, that the office is of secondary importance to them. They're meeting their customers, they're talking to people, they're integrating with the staff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening and you haven't listened to the podcast I did with Simon Lewis from the O in Palm Beach, he had a lovely story where actually once they'd done the takeover and they'd started to regain the trust of the staff, which was a big challenge for them, he used to go down and he'd do some photography, but he'd use the staff and get to chat to them and get to understand what they thought about the property. He'd go to the chef and ask them to teach them how to do a dish. Now, if anyone asks me how to do my dishes, I'll teach them, but then I'll kill them because I wouldn't want them to, But but it's like, I think that interaction, you see it when you walk into a property. You know it happens because there's a confidence in the staff that they know they've got permission to make sure it works for you. They don't have to go and ask somebody. They can come up with a solution.
Yes.
And when you go into a property and you what is it you notice when you walk in the door, apart from the name badge, which I totally get, but when you walk into a property, what's the feeling you get when you know there's a problem?
I think when you have to ask for things, it really does come down to that. I mean, we're talking really about luxury hotels.
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely,
only world
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
anything about, really. But if you have to keep going to the desk and asking for things, then they've failed, in my view. Whether it's a conference or a wedding or just a lunch for two people or a private meeting, or you're just staying there and you're wanting things, I find that certainly at the Pride of Britain hotels that I visit, people will come forward with offers of help before you've even realised that you wanted something.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you're just about to go out. Would you like me to get your briefcase for
Yes.
you? Oh, yes, thanks very much.
Yeah.
It's raining. Do you want to borrow an umbrella? They're trying all the time to almost to force service on you. I don't want to make that sound terrible.
I think no, but there's a
Do you know
point
what I
where
mean?
it becomes forced and it becomes unnatural, and
Yes.
then you revert the other way. But there's a
Yes.
very fine line. I was at a hotel in London and I was sitting just in the reception area, and I had a cough. I was coughing. And this,
How annoying. Did they manage to get rid of you?
No. This waitress walked out with a glass of water. Would you like a glass of water, sir? And I was absolutely taken aback.
That's
I thought,
initiative.
Total initiative. There's a guest, and I wasn't even a guest in the hotel. I was visiting the hotel.
Yes.
And I had that level
But
of
that was an
service.
act of generosity.
Oh, yeah.
Which you've remembered, but it cost the hotel or the
Absolutely
restaurant nothing at all.
And that's the point I'd like to just maybe look at, is that you look at lots of hotels, and we talked about the massive investment hotels make, which they have to keep these places upkeep. When Virginia Bottomley was the Minister of Tourism, she
going back a bit.
Yeah, it is going back a bit, but that's when I had my hotel. And I was
Right.
at the General Managers Conference
Yes,
at
forgive me.
the Kensington Hotel.
Yes.
And she walked in and she mentioned me twice in her speech. And not only that, she came over and gave me a big hug and a kiss. And everyone's looking at me, who's he? I didn't say that she's my local MP, but anyway. But the point she made was that, we have a lot in this country, and probably quite a few of the properties in your stable are listed buildings.
Yes.
And they are under the care of hoteliers who do take great care of them. They use them for a fantastic purpose.
Yeah.
And, we need to encourage that. But the thing that I was going to say is that we look at that expense, but actually when we invest in people, it's not that expensive to do, is it? In your experience?
Talk to a hotelier and they will put their head in their hands and think about their payroll as this vast outgoing. whether the hotel is busy or not. And I feel their pain. I can see why it's such a concern, because it's the sheer number of people.
Yeah.
I mean, a 50-bedroom hotel at the top end probably has 100 people on the payroll.
Yeah, and it's got a daily cost of staff of quite a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think your point is well made. It doesn't cost anything like as much to groom a wonderful front-of-house member of the team as it does to re-wallpaper all the suites.
Yeah. And in fact, when he was talking about the Ritz-Carlton model, was if the restaurant wasn't working, you refurbished the restaurant. You didn't look at the staff training or the attitude of the staff or anything like that. You just refurbished the restaurant. It probably didn't work again afterwards, but it was a big branded property that had a manual to say this is how we do it.
Yes.
Refurbish it.
That's like polishing a car because the engine it didn't start.
Exactly. And I think this is what the market you're in. And I think the reason I wanted to interview you, because although the top end of the market, the luxury end of the market is there, in the UK we have lots of really wonderful 3- and 4-star properties that sometimes feel that they don't have enough money. They haven't got enough money to keep them up the way they like to. In today's pressures, especially some of the seaside resorts and things like that, where hotels used to be really grand, but have suffered a bit in the last few years. But then you actually look at their staff and the service that they give, and it sort of tells you why it's not going so well. Because, as Melissa said, she would quite happy have a bit of threadbare furniture as long as the service was well executed, because that would bring the customers in.
Yes.
In your properties, have you ever experienced, or not the ones you've accepted, obviously, into the Pride of Britain, but properties that you've seen and gone no, and it's really just been not because of the deck or not because of the state of the property, but because of the people issues?
And I should say that before Pride of Britain, I spent 12 years working for Johansson's Guides, so I saw a much wider spectrum of properties then, and obviously occasionally still do as a private individual. I think where it goes wrong at any level, but perhaps even more in the mid-market than anywhere else, is where you've got an owner or an owner-driver or a general manager who's ultimately responsible, who is just too busy to do it properly. They are trapped in the kitchen because they've made themselves indispensable, or they're trapped behind the bar, or they're trapped in the office. They just can't extract themselves from the business and delegate enough to other people. You talked earlier on about every member of staff being empowered to do things for guests. In the smaller property where you've got this trapped hands-on owner or GM who never gets out, never sees what other hotels are like, isn't free, is probably overworked and overtired as well. That's where I think you're in a vicious circle and you can't get out of it. And I always think you meet people who've got 2 hotels, they tend to be much, much happier because they have to have somebody in a managerial position at each one to look after things. So they are actually free to go out and buy antiques, stay in other hotels and learn from what they're doing, and just step back a little bit and appreciate where the investment really needs to go.
I think there's an interesting point there you make, which is a point very well made, which is, you go from one property. When you go to the second property, you force yourself to have somebody responsible at the other place when you're not there. I think the biggest failing of people in that situation is that they still won't let go the reins enough to let people actually step up and contribute. They still try and control it too much. And there's a trust of staff, and Simon in his interview talks all about the trust that management had for the staff, and then the staff trust you back. And I think trust has got to be there.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, we all love being trusted, don't we? There's a place where I occasionally play golf, very modest course, where there's an honesty box. I always pay. Everybody I know always pays correctly there, because almost in the hope of being caught out, so we can say, yes, I pay. Well, nobody ever checks. But we love being trusted, and so we always do it.
Okay. So you've gone on and seen lots of things, and you've seen some really great properties. Have you ever had the situation where you've sort of exited someone from Pride of Britain, or they haven't lived up to the mark?
Yes,
no names.
The organisation is a very democratic one,
right?
And I report to all the members. And we have a board, and we have a chairman, and we have a process. If a hotel is letting the side down, if it scores badly in its mystery guest visits, there will be a process where we will encourage that hotel to take itself out. It has served us quite well over the years. We don't do it in a blunt and nasty or arrogant way. people are just quietly,
Suggested that maybe not.
Take themselves out of the
Yeah.
picture. So we have this little bit of evolution. We've got a limit of 50 hotels in Perter, Britain, and we're very close to that limit at the moment.
Right.
So we're almost in a one in, one out situation like the
Right.
Premier League.
Right.
So as soon as somebody goes, the spotlight is, well, who's the weakest member now?
Yeah.
But I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
And we always try to replace where possible with even better
Right.
than the average.
And that in itself sort of engenders a bit of internal competition, and also probably internal pride that they're part of this exclusive group.
Exclusive. I mean,
And does that get down to the staff?
I hope so. I
Right.
really hope so. I mean, you might see that I'm wearing my Pride of Britain
I
badge.
saw
A
that.
number of the staff, we don't insist on it, but a lot of them choose to wear these badges.
Right.
And in the hope that customers will say, well, that's a nice badge. What does it signify? And there's the excuse then to talk about Pride of Britain.
Yeah.
You look at prideofbritainhotels.com and see what all the others are. We do rely very much on the management at each hotel to help spread the word.
Yeah.
Because obviously, limited resources, we're only a small team, we can't be spending every day talking to everybody who works in each hotel, but I hope it is filtering through. We're trying to get the brand a little bit more visible within the properties, not in too overt a way, but so that customers recognise that they're going to have the Pride of Britain experience of great hospitality,
And
whichever one they go to.
Let's talk about the brand of Pride of Britain, because I think it is. I came across you in articles written in the Catering World and things like that, and
yes.
I've blogged about you and I've sort of told people your attitude to the decoration versus the people piece, and but Pride of Britain. We live in a country. I mean, we're just going for Brexit right now. Tomorrow, that's going to date the interview. I'm sorry, but we could be out when you see this, or in. Who knows? But Pride of Britain had, when I was a lot younger, had a lot of meaning. It then lost the meaning, not your business, but the idea of being proud in Britain. And I think it's come back in the last few years that we are very proud.
The concept of national pride.
National pride.
Yes, I see.
And I think that your brand is, if you like, a pretty big flag waver for
We're
that.
ahead of our time.
You're
aren't
ahead
we?
of your time, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you find it a struggle to keep that idea up there, or is it actually becoming a natural phenomenon for you?
I think it gets easier actually,
Right.
because you have the cumulative effect of all the marketing that one has done in previous years, and
Yeah.
more, a wider database, more people visiting
Yeah.
the website, and so on. So you have all of that, and you have a greater understanding within the member properties as time goes by, and the more
Right.
we meet them and talk to them about what we're doing. And bear in mind that I'm working for them, and they have the last word on who joins and how we spend the money. So,
Right.
so they are really in control of things
Right.
with Pride of Britain, and it's a small enough organisation for everyone to know each other. We can all fit in one venue for our annual meetings and so on. So I think it is getting a little bit easier, and I think, as you say, there is a feeling that we're proud to be British, and we sort of hear Winston Churchill's voice echoing in our ears from time to time, and a little tear forms in the corner of the eye when we see the Union flag. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
So let's flip it back to hotels for a second now, because if you look here at the Draycott, we have a very international staff here.
Yes.
From Poland, from Bulgaria, from Armenia, from Portugal, from the Philippines, from Spain. I can't remember how many else that I was told
You're
this
very
morning.
well informed.
Well, I know. I asked one of the guys this morning, and who's telling me, who the guy who brought our coffee. He just said, this is all the people, and but there's a natural feel to this place. When you walk in,
Yes.
you get this lovely service.
Yes.
Across multicultural. Now,
Yes.
I do work with people that talk about the psychometric testing that goes on these days, DISC in particular, where they talk about the cultural part of it, and different cultures behave differently. If you look across your stable of properties, I hope they don't mind me called a stable of properties, but your stable of properties, what percentage would you say are foreign staff versus British staff?
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm
Gut feel?
guessing it's around 50-50.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more than 50% staff from overseas.
Right.
But this is not a new phenomenon.
No, it's not.
I mean, I was a waiter in 1977, and I was the only English person working there. My colleagues were all French and Italian.
Yeah.
So, yes, the countries from which we draw talent and labour shift around a little bit.
Because in Jersey, if you go to Jersey, it used to be virtually 90% of the staff front of house were Portuguese. Because
Yes.
they go to Madeira in the summer and they come back to Jersey in the
Yes.
winter. It's like,
But I really don't think there's any difficulty whether you're from Portugal or Poland or wherever it might be, to be able to deliver a British style of service. After all, Rolls-Royce cars are essentially made by Germans for us now, and the final assembly takes place in this country. So I think as a British style of hospitality can be delivered by anyone who's got the right skills and the right attitude.
And I think that sort of brings it back down to it, because what we're talking about, I mean, to me, the definition of hospitality is the delivery of hospitable service.
Yes.
And hospitable service means understanding your guest, understanding what they need, when they need it, and being able to fabricate that, sometimes out of thin air, but fabricate that so that it's delivered to the guest directly. And creatively, and bringing your own character and your own personality to it, so that the guest doesn't feel like it's just been put on the plate by a thing.
Yes.
There's a person there.
Absolutely. And one of the masters of this is a Frenchman, Fred Sirieix, who we know, of course, a restaurant manager at Galvin at Windows, also a TV personality in his own right. And he talks about the magic touch.
Yeah.
Little examples, somebody's making their way to the table, you just gesticulate towards their chair, pull it out for them, and just shove it in a little bit as they're sitting down. It takes no effort at all.
No.
It costs nothing.
Yeah.
But the guest feels like a real VIP. And that's the sort of thing that you can deliver. You don't have to be British to do that. I'm sad to say a lot of British people actually aren't very good at delivering that sort of hospitality, hence our reliance on talent from overseas.
Because when I had my own hotel, which was 27 bedroom, but it was an exclusive use hotel, so we'd have, it was aimed predominantly at the corporate market. We'd have boards of directors come for 2, 3, 4 days, whatever it was. And we once had Vodafone there for a conference, and they were designing a new customer service strategy for Vodafone. Let's not comment on that. And they were on tables and they were doing a role play, and one of the table leaders came to reception and said, "You wouldn't happen to have a recording of Blind Date, would you?" And now that dates it a bit, I know. But anyway, our receptionist, rather than saying no, just said, I'll just go and find out and I'll come back to you in a moment.
Yes, go ahead.
Went to the staff room, which is about just after the coffee break, so we were all in there having coffee, and said, "Has anyone got recorded Blind Date this weekend?" And normally this was a topic of conversation. Sad though it may be true. And nobody had. And one of our staff just stood up and went, "I know, I've got my tape recorder, let's go to the club room," which is rather like this room, nice quiet room, apart from the traffic going past, and we'll record it a cappella style, because it was a very simple tune. You remember it. I'm not going to ask you to sing it, but you probably remember it.
I'm obliged to.
And this cassette was then handed to the gentleman, who was quite surprised, played it on the recorder, said, "Oh, that's perfect," and asked how he got it. So Judy said, "Well, I did ask in staff, but no one had recorded it, so we did it a cappella style in the club room."
Brilliant.
And he's like, "Oh my God, thank you." So it comes to the afternoon where they're making the presentation back to the whole room, and the guy from, I think it was Vantage Partners, was consultancy, was at the back of the room waiting, and this guy presses play, now coming out through our fantastic sound system, and plays a few bars, and the guy goes, "Well, stop, how did you do that?" And so the guy explained the process.
Yes.
And this consultant walked up the front of the room and went, "Right, you're trying to design a new customer service strategy. There it is."
Oh, lovely.
Right.
What a tribute.
He came to me in my office
Yes.
and said, "Adrian, how did you do that?" And I went, "Do what?" And he told me the story. I said, "Oh, that's normal." And I said, "What do you mean it's normal?" He said, "Well, we have 2 rules. To exceed our guest experiences every time they visit." That was rule number 1 for everything. The second rule was to use all of your personal skills, talents and abilities to achieve the first. Desi sang in a choir. So it was like common sense to her to go and record it.
Yes.
And that, I think, is luxury. We talked about luxury a bit at the conference.
Yes.
It's delivering what the guest needs when the guest needs it and making it really personal. That's luxury.
Absolutely.
And that must be true in all your hotels. Not that they record Blind Date cassettes, but that they deliver that luxury.
For all we know. Yes, I think that's what it comes down to. It's giving the guest that feeling of being welcome and being made as comfortable as it's possible to make them.
And, we, because of our nature of business...
For a price.
Yes, for a price,
I mean,
absolutely.
we're doing it for money.
Yes.
It's not charitable work.
But it's funny, the price, going back to sort of simple things, if you're in a 3-star hotel, it costs exactly the same to deliver great service as it does in a 5-star hotel.
Yes, and I think it's very brave to be in that market because you've got the budget hotels competing with you on price very aggressively indeed, and you've got luxury offerings which can, create the wow factor that perhaps eludes you.
Yeah.
And I think that the successful operators at the 3-star level are very clever indeed because they find creative ways to stand out and be different.
Yeah, and it all tends to be their people. how their people perform, how their people generate,
course.
the story they tell,
Yes.
that when the guests arrive, they go, oh my God, that was an amazing thing. So just to finish off, if I may, Pride of Britain is where it is now, 48 hotels out of 50 in your thing. What do you see the biggest challenges for you going forward in keeping your position in the market, your organisation? What's going to be the special thing that's going to hold Pride of Britain at the top?
Well, I think we'll always be judged on the quality of the properties we have in membership. So that's the key thing. That's the number one priority, is to have the best collection of independent hotels that we can get our hands on and invite into membership. We're very fortunate in one sense because we can share members with our competitors who are the global operators, like small luxury hotels of the world, Relais and Chateau. There's nothing to stop you being members of two at once, which is a great help to us. I think for us, being small, we've always got a battle on our hands to keep the brand in the front of people's minds. And there's a lot of work going behind the scenes now, and a lot of money being spent on pushing the brand in a way that reaches out to the people who've yet to become fans of Pride of Britain. And I think it's hanging on to what makes us special,
right,
and not being a profit-making organisation with no ambitions or need to expand. I think is another great advantage. We can keep it special and keep it exclusive, and I think that will always have a value.
And in a year, how many hotels approach you saying, "Can we join?"
In a typical year, between 10 and 20,
right? So
of which perhaps one or the most two would
so.
actually be accepted.
So you've got this lovely position of being in demand and being full.
It's not bad, is it? I can stand up in front of our members and say we have 96% occupancy.
Yes.
A language they understand.
And how many hoteliers would like to do that every day of the week?
There we go.
Peter, thank you very much for taking the time to come and see me today.
My pleasure.
You've made some lovely comments, and I hope those of you who've been listening today will have a few little nuggets there to take away to apply back in your businesses, just to think, how could you take an idea of service and deliver it in your business that's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it's really going to deliver that wow factor to your guest. It won't cost you money. You just have to think about it. You have to give your staff permission to come up with the ideas with you. You have to let them play. It's not just your business. You've got all of your team there working with you. So enjoy. Peter, thank you very much, and all the best with Pride of Britain.
All the best to you. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks, Peter. And if you want to see the next podcast, look out for it coming shortly. And I'm not going to tell you who it's going to be because it's a bit of a surprise. But if fate goes the way I want it to be, it's going to be a good one. See you soon. Bye for now.